Hello and welcome to the Metapod Podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I'm Jake. Here with me is my co-host, as always, for 152 episodes now. Sean, we've officially passed Generation 1 of the Metapod Podcast, right? We're over 151 episodes. Now we're on 152 into the second generation. How do you feel?
I feel good. I can't wait for all the threads and tweets or X's, whatever. All of the posts that were like, oh man, I missed the original 151.
I am so mad because like I create the thumbnail and stuff for like the YouTube and things like that, and I usually upload it. Sean gets a lot of like the layout stuff and design of the actual recording, and then I do a lot of the post editing stuff. And I saw when I was doing it, and I was like, man, I missed the opportunity to talk about how it was the 151st podcast, 151. I was so mad about that. But Sean, how was your week last week?
It's good. It was good. I went to pre-release. Yeah. And did we talk about this last week? Am I wilding?
We talked about, because you did go to a pre-release last week and I did not.
Okay, sorry.
But
yes,
it sounds like you went to another one.
I didn't. My brain, Jake. No, I didn't go to another pre-release. I just went to my locals.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was the Pokemon that I played this week. Just one event, just the locals. Always fun. I'm rocking. I'm kind of flip-flopping between Chen Pao and Gardevoir at the moment. So.
Oh, I love playing Chen Pao. Yeah. It's just so fun to hit for like 1,000 damage.
yes,
at
indeed.
will. It seems like.
But yeah, how about you? How was yours?
I went to a pre-release this weekend. Actually,
okay.
I went to Obsidian Flames. I went with some friends, and my pre-release kit was actually pretty good, I will say. I opened up the full art Tyranitar EX, so that was pretty cool. I got a Pidgeot EX regular art out of it. So those two hits right there, really, really nice. I got the Illustrator Rare Pidgeotto, which I titled it as Secret Rare Candy from the set. And my pre-release kit was a Cleffa promo, so that was pretty good as well. It was like kind of one of the best. It was, in my opinion, the number one promo that I wanted out of the set in terms of the pre-release promos. And I went 3-0. So qualified for Worlds 2024, got 2,000 points, 3-0 record with my pre-release deck.
Can you imagine? They should do a pre-release regional, Jake. They should just have all 1,200 players sit down, open up a kit, and go.
Instead of, the regional and icy like side event of the build and battle kits for like prize tickets, you just there's like just one big event, and you just, man, think about like how many people, if you got like, let's say 50 points for playing that, think how much people would like think of decks and metas and really try to like deck build out of it. But
Pokemon.
One thing that I've noticed,
build a sealed event, sealed regional, go.
Sealed regional. That would be insane. Actually, you like, how many more names you would like find out about because of an event like that? Like, well, maybe you wouldn't actually, because who would report on her? We would report on.
We would. These
guys. I will say though, the Obsidian Flames set, it is actually, so my like partner opened up a booster box, and a bunch of my friends and I opened up pre-release kits and stuff. There's a lot of commons that you'll miss out on. I feel like the commons in the set, and I don't know if it's just because I was really trying to find that Komiya Rowlet in there, and like, people joke about, all the content creators joked about like, man, trying to find the Charmanders, for this set. Maybe I just never noticed it before, but I feel like out of the sets, I only got this like Komiya Rowlet because somebody outside of like my friends that I brought with me to the pre-release got one of these Rowlets, and he's like, hey Jake, you wanted this Rowlet? And I was like, yes, thank you. Like, none of the four of us got it. My partner opened up a box, like she didn't get regular Rowlet, like, and I don't know, just hearing that and the Charizards that people talk about, or Charmanders that people talk about, like, I feel like maybe hitting certain commons in the set, like there's a set of commons that are just super hard to get. I don't know. Maybe
I
that's a conspiracy theory.
I don't know. I mean, in the last set, there was the conspiracy theory about hitting one specific version of Lechonk. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, there was one specific version of Lechonk. I think that one had like a triple colorless attack, but it was
Mhm.
like, oh man, I opened up 2 boxes and I didn't find one of these Lechonk or whatever. And like, yeah, I think me and my friends all opened up 4 boxes and there was one of a common Lechonk between 4 boxes. And it was, I
Yeah,
don't, maybe it's completely random,
yeah,
but
and I also don't know if it's because of the new pack assortment, right? Because they've changed the packs and like the number of certain rarities and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's because of that or if I'm just now like focusing on the commons and uncommons more often. But
Jake,
like,
it
I'd be
is
intrigued.
It is something that I thought about because when they did the pack thing, I think we talked about this very briefly. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, they're adding a new rare slot, which you're like, oh, that's great. It makes the rares, more likely to
They took
hit
away a
whatever.
common though, didn't they?
They did because they didn't want to take away an uncommon slot because uncommons are where all the trainers go. And if you take away an uncommon slot, then like people who play the game, it's going to be harder and harder to find like, you know, the things you need that
The
support a deck.
Gitas and
Right.
stuff, you know.
So they took away a common slot, and you think about you extrapolate that out for a whole booster box, and like all of a sudden there's 36 less commons that you pull in a booster box. And since common is by definition the most common typing, you're
There's a
like
lot of different ones, you know.
right, the pool of cards is huge. You're reducing the number that people pull in a box. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I think it actually is. It's hard.
The Metapod podcast, the only podcast in the Pokemon trading card game that actually evaluates the rarity of common cards and the probability that you'll pull a playset of them in specific sets and boxes. But Sean, let's put that
Yeah.
all aside because honestly, we could talk about that another day with someone very, very intelligent and has studied it way more than us ding dongs have. So we've got a lot to talk about today. The World Championships are this week. We will be talking a bit about some of our decks that we like in the World Championships, decks that we don't like, decks that we may see have a little bit of some underdog in them as well, and plenty more. But we don't necessarily have a 5-star review today. We did put out kind of a feeler to you all last week with Pokemon's announcement of being able to restream broadcasts. And with the World Championships coming up, we asked you all, would you want to see commentary from us, Ding Dong and Doofus over here, of, just different events, maybe starting out the World Championships and maybe some regionals, maybe some ICs, maybe not every single one and not live, but providing our own commentary to it as our own broadcast to like, different channels, the YouTube channel, other places of the sorts. And you all did provide some nice feedback. You all did really enjoy it. And so we're working out the kinks a little bit. Sean's going to be traveling out to a whole nother state on the other side of the country, it feels like. So we're working it out, but we will try to get you some stuff in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is, and I think we're gonna be able to do it. Get some Pokemon Worlds matches recorded.
Mm-hmm.
To Jake's point, not live streamed, but recorded with commentary onto the YouTube. So keep an eye out.
For anyone who doesn't know as well, one of the reasons that we wouldn't want to do it live is one, I don't have the attention span and I'll constantly interact with the chat, but also because the World Championships are in Japan, so the timing is a little bit difficult for us old people. So for instance, the World Championships, for anyone who does not know, it's going to be starting on Thursday if you live in the United States. It's Friday in Japan, Friday morning, Thursday in like the United States, North America, South America even, that region. So the opening World Championship ceremony starts Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then into the Pokemon trading card game as well immediately following that on the Pokemon trading card game channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube or the video version on Spotify or anything like that, you're seeing the graphic right here. That's the green. section that we're referring to. So if you're audio only listeners, again, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, August 10th is going to start the Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships on Twitch, Pokemon TCG. Then they'll go through all of the rounds on day 1. They'll go into day 2 on Friday night in North America and this side of the world, Saturday morning in Japan, and on the other side of the world. That is going to start also on 8 p.m. So 2 consecutive days, day 1 and day 2. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Very, very easy for you all. And again, both of those are going to be on the Pokemon TCG specific Twitch channel. So make sure you go to that. The finals is where it gets tricky. So in day 2, they're going to be streaming all of them up until the finals of juniors, seniors, and masters. Saturday night or Sunday morning in Japan is going to be championship day. It's going to be day 3 of the championships. They're going to do the championships for a bunch of the games. I mean, Unite championships happen on day 2, but anyways, Saturday, August 12th in the PM, 9:15 p.m. Eastern time is going to, approximately that time, is going to start the Pokemon Trading Card Game finals. They're going to start off, I believe, with the juniors, do the masters match after that, do the seniors match. So, I mean, it could be like past midnight when we see the masters final. It's going to be happening after the Pokemon Go finals. So the trading card game won't even start till Pokemon Go. So if there's any delay or goes long for any reason, I don't know how common that is in Pokemon Go. If there's any sort of extra time or elongated time, it's going to push back that time of the Pokemon trading card game. And then following that after is the video game and then the closing ceremony. One thing to note that is very important that a lot of people will probably forget, including myself. The finals on Saturday night / Japan Sunday morning is going to be on the official Pokemon Twitch channel, just the regular Twitch channel. It's going to be going on all day. It's going to have all the finals on it. So day 1 and day 2 are going to be on the Pokemon TCG channel. Day 3 going to be on the official Pokemon channel, just twitch.tv/Pokemon. Sean, do you understand? Nod your head if you understand.
TLDR for everybody out there. Pokemon TCG channel on Twitch specifically, 8 p.m. Thursday and Friday night Eastern time. Saturday, just the Pokemon channel, the main one on Twitch, 9:15 Eastern. Pretty straightforward.
I know there's a lot of people excited for the World Championships, including myself. I'm literally like counting down the days. I don't know it off the top of my head right now, so don't ask. But I'm counting down for the upcoming World Championships because it's going to be looking good, and we're going to be talking about later in this podcast how you can get some free stuff by just simply watching the Pokemon Championships thing. But Sean, for all of us not in Japan, right?
Yep.
We gotta play locally. We just gotta hang out here. So, what's coming up at your locals if you want to go to those?
Yeah, the locals. There's Pokemon Prize Pack Series 3 is coming to locals starting on August 11th. So if you're familiar, if you've been to other locals, these are the participation packs that your locals should be giving away to you. That is the point of these. So, if your locals are not giving these away and they're an officially sanctioned league, maybe ask.
There's a problem.
They're probably selling them, which they shouldn't be doing. But, ask about it if you're going and you haven't seen them in the past. But most likely they are. So the new series is coming out on August 11th. Now, there's a few things to note about the new series that's pretty exciting. One is I believe this is the first time we're getting any silver bordered holo cards. Because all of the other prize packs were only cards that had yellow borders. So this one's going to be a mix of some silver border and some yellow border holos, which the silver border holos look amazing, Jake.
Just to clarify, when the difference will happen. It just aligns with what the card is reprinted from. So if it's
Yeah.
reprinted from Scarlet and Violet, it will have the silver glitter hollow, whereas, cards from what was the one before it? Sword and Shield?
Yeah, Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield series will just have the disgusting yellow border, in my opinion. But anyways,
Yeah.
not only that, Sean, it is also going to have the Galaxy foil, which has been gone since, the Wizards of the Coast era. Has not been around for a long, long time, and it's in everything. It's not only on the energies, it's on all the hollows as well. And like you were saying with the silver borders, the hollow is even on the silver borders as well. So they act a lot like, a Japanese rare. Very, very pretty. The trainers that you see on the Poke Beach article, if you go to that article, the rare candy, the electric generator, they look so good, Sean.
Yeah, I'm like really excited for the silver border. Like that silver border rare candy, if you're going to plan to play that new Charizard EX deck, these are your rare candies if you want to bling that deck out. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it,
In these packs, they will be at participating Pokemon leagues from August 11th to the 13th. So the weekend of Worlds during a, quote, WCS tournament. This is an update that has been on there. We can only assume that this will come out as like normal, because like the leagues that I went to recently were Series 2.
Yeah.
And so the assumption is, they'll be around for a little bit and maybe it'll just keep going on as that. But also there are awesome cards. Sean, I love these prize packs. They grew on me a little bit. I was a little sad to not have the, like League Challenge, League Cup promo things anymore. But these are really starting to grow on me, especially because there are cards like Arceus V-Star in this set, Sean.
Yeah, like we don't know the full list of all the cards in the set, but Arceus V-Star is one of them. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time or following the meta, I mean, half the meta is some form of Arceus. So, yeah, like you can pull a fancy Arceus V-Star that has the little play Pokemon stamp on it. That'll be dope. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what. So, Series 1 was Sword and Shield to Evolving Skies. Series 2 was Battle Styles to Brilliant Stars. So, Series 3 will have to start at Brilliant Stars then, because it includes Arceus V-Star, which is a Brilliant Stars card. And it looks like it will run at least through Paldea Evolved. Or
is it going to go through Paldea Evolved?
Maybe it only goes through Scarlet and Violet base, because there is the electric generator, which is Scarlet Violet base. So
and
that
like,
would be
there's Jock in there. Penny.
Yep. So, I think it'll probably be Battle Styles through the first set of Scarlet and Violet is my guess. So, what else could be in there? I don't know. Speculate away. What other V-Stars? I mean, it'd be cool if there's a Palkia V-Star. I could see that being printed in this. I'm just trying to think of like other standout cards. Maybe even like a Comfy. Is there already a Comfy?
There is Lost Box stuff in there because Sableye is in there. The Lost Mine Sableye. There's Mirage Gate in there. There's Colress Experiment, Lost Vacuum. And let me tell you, the Lost Vacuum, the Ultra Ball, and the Trekking Shoes are like the cartoony, like or like alternate art versions of those cards, which in my opinion, better versions than the originals that they got. So, I mean, I don't know this, and it's presumably got Reggie's in there too, because this one of the pictures that was provided to Poke Beach has the Reggie Rock in it.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what's coming. Just keep your eye out at locals. TLDR.
TLDR. And TLDR, if you're getting Obsidian Flames, which is releasing this week, and maybe you did not pull a Charizard and you don't want to break the bank, have no fear. A new promo is coming of Charizard soon, releasing on October 20th for $40, the Charizard EX Premium Collection. So in this, you're going to get the Charizard EX. It's a promo version looks like the full art. You get a Charmander, Charmeleon as well, as of right now, and then 6 or 7 packs. What's that pack in the
6.
back? It's
Who
just 6.
knows?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
it's 6
it's
packs.
a magnetic card protector with a display case.
Oh, that's
What? What is
interesting.
that?
I guess it's like you can display the Charizard that you get in the pack, right? You just
Yeah.
interesting. That's new.
It is reported on PokeBeach that this is the first time a product has included a magnetic card protector with display base. So,
huh.
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Pokemon. This is the second, probably not the second time. Probably they've done it other times too. But like, they continually are printing Charizard, which are like meant to be these chase-ish cards, but
Hmm.
printing special versions in just box sets that you just get straight off, like the Ultra Premium Collection from last year. So, what Jake and I will say to your point earlier about how many people have been pulling Charizards, don't pay for any pre-order prices on Charizard singles.
No, no, no.
The day the set is officially released, that regular Charizard EX, especially knowing that this is coming out in like 2 months, that thing is going to be the same price as most EXs, which are like $3 to $5, maybe 10, maybe.
It's definitely going to be the most expensive EX from the set, right? Like, there's no question about that. But
Yeah.
to your point, it's going to be cheaper and cheaper because people are pulling this like crazy. I think in like 10 boxes, Mela Magikarp earlier on a Twitch live stream opened up 12 Charizards.
Oh my gosh,
You
that's
know,
more than one a box.
varying. Yeah, so it's gonna be. I don't want to say it's easy pulling the Charizard, but the Charizards are plentiful, and be patient, young grasshopper. We obviously can't say what to do with your money, but if you're looking, to get the most bang for your buck, just wait a little bit. Just wait and wait and wait. But Sean, you're going to be able to get a Charizard EX guaranteed on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. We're going to talk about this quick developer update that released literally like an hour prior to the us recording the podcast earlier today. So Pokemon, every so often, the last time they did this was in May. They write these letters to the community from the developers of the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. So in this, we're going to kind of talk about a couple different points about this, but they're going to they've talked about some of the visual updates that are going on, and they realize that there needs to be a change with how the game feels. And so there's going to be some changes implemented this week, but also in the future that we will learn about soon. But one of the changes coming to Pokemon TCG Live will replace condensed art in the game's mobile version with a full art card. So if you playing the game right now or no, it just basically shows the art of the card, which is pretty and cool. But for me personally, I just kind of wish that it was the full card. So we're going to be able to get that, as well as in future updates. They plan to remove the data for a lot of assets in the visual experience, which will significantly reduce the load size in both mobile and desktop versions of the game. The update will optimize the performance of load and installation times for all players once removed. So I'm curious how this is going to affect my phone's battery.
I mean, I think that's exactly why they're doing all of this, Jake, is because they probably got a ton of feedback. Like, load times took forever. It's a complete battery hog. From what I hear, I haven't downloaded
Battery
and played
killer
it.
too.
And like, I know that like it probably, from what I hear too, is like if you load it up on your computer's fan just goes like absolutely crazy. And it's like, what am I running here? Am I running, people joke in the game industry, am I running Crisis on 4K or something like that? And I need a GTX 4090 in order to run Pokemon TCG Live? No.
Yeah, like
So,
I used to be able in Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, I used to be able, while the podcast was exporting, because it's over an hour long podcast, sometimes it takes a little bit. I used to be able to just play games on my computer while it's exporting. With Pokemon TCG Live, I can't do that because it takes up too much power. And I have a good computer. Like, I have a pretty decent computer. So it's it's
Yeah.
nice that some of these things are coming, and it's nice that they're acknowledging stuff like this from an operational standpoint, I guess you can say. But that's not all they let us know about in their plan, Sean. Starting on August 10th, booster packs and theme decks from Sun and Moon series expansions will be available in the shop in exchange for crystals. So if you're trying to get that secret rare fairy energy from Burning Shadows and you never got it on TCGO, don't worry, young grasshopper. You will be able to get it in this as well. You can continue your hunt. And actually, wait, available in the shop in exchange for crystals. So it doesn't sound like you can craft, but you
Uh,
can you craft it?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't specify here, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I assume if you can buy them, like you can buy the packs, that each of the individual assets are going to become craftable either immediately or in the near future. So yeah, that's my guess. It would be weird if there's certain locked sets that you can't
Yeah, I was
craft.
gonna
Like,
say, like, I didn't think about that until right now, but also like you couldn't craft like certain energies, or like you couldn't craft V unions for a time. So I guess anything's possible with these guys, you know.
I suppose. Yeah, yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's just because the V unions were promos, but these won't be
Yeah,
promos, right? So,
I have
still
no
very
idea.
strange.
They also say that they are taking the next steps to bring the full expanded format play experience to Pokemon TCG Live. So I guess expanded's not officially dead. There's been rumors that it's coming back,
Well,
but now it's getting towards the steps, and they're slowly being able to bring it back.
Jake, I think somebody sent something and messaged something to us that, or I saw somewhere that somebody highlighted that the big news from Pokemon last week when they announced all
Mhm.
the regionals and locals is it was in there. You can run standard or expanded events.
I think I saw that because Stefan Ivanov, big
Hmm.
expanded fan. I'm pretty sure that was revised shortly after it was like
Oh, it
pointed
was?
out and like taken out. I'm like
Oh,
90% sure because I remember
rip.
Stefan
Never
like
mind.
wanting to make the joke that Stefan, it's like the meme of the guy with the dollar bill and he's got the fishing rod. He's like, you gotta be quicker than that. Like, just I imagine that just happening to Stefan day in and day out with expanded the last like 2 months. But
Yeah.
anyways, Sean, enough about expanded. We're talking about the now. We're talking people are trying to salivate, trying to find out how to get that free Charizard EX. We talked about it a little bit earlier in a couple episodes ago, but again, during the live broadcast on Twitch, there will be a redeemable code on Pokemon TCG Live for the Charizard EX. And then there's also going to be Twitch drops that happen on there as well. So again, if you want free stuff, go watch the stream for Worlds. But speaking of Worlds, Sean, we're just gonna go in. I want your first reaction on this extravaganza. We have done all of our research. We are definitely the most knowledgeable of the most knowledgeable play testers, obviously, because we're, going. No, we're not going to Worlds. Anyways,
Well,
Sean.
I mean, okay. So just setting everything up for our listeners too, who can't see what's on the screen. We have a tier list right here that has all of a bunch of, oh my God, so many decks, Jake. And we're going to
Mhm.
rank them all based on how we think they'll do at Worlds. Obviously, anybody listening to this, nobody's going to be listening to this podcast for advice on what they should bring to Worlds because they're already on a plane right now, most likely.
Yeah, you should be
So,
at Worlds
no.
by now,
Yes.
or like on the way.
But the question then is, okay, what do we think is going to be the most successful? So the first one we have here, Jake, is Palkia. Now my guess is I'm like looking down here and I don't see any other versions. So this is just the only Palkia list on here. Where do we think it ranks? Jake, it's definitely not S tier. I don't
For
even think
all of
it's
our audio listeners, there
yes.
are 5 different tiers: S tier, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then rogue/bad.
Yeah, and there's a tier 1.5 as well. But
Well, I want to
yeah,
take out. Can we take out the 1.5? That's just
yeah.
too confusing,
Delete
Sean.
row. Ain't need no 1.5. For me, Palkia is a tier 2 deck.
I would
Totally
agree with that.
middle of the pack. It can get work done, but it's straightforward. It's not gonna like blow anybody's socks off. Yeah, I just don't see it. It can't really reach for the numbers. And if you can't reach for the numbers, you kind of have to figure out what's your other gimmick as the deck. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have
Hmm.
the Inteleon engine that saw a lot of success in the past. Now, I know you had a version of Palkia that you and Azul
That's
and
in the rogue
others.
and bad category. That's
Yeah.
not in the
Okay.
that's in the
Okay.
rogue and bad category. That's just a fun deck to play where you can draw 100 cards a turn, it feels like.
Like there's a world in which a deck that only needs one attachment a turn,
Hmm.
and if you play EXP share or if you can use its ability, look, this deck can hold its own against decks that want to disrupt it, but there's not enough decks that are out for disruption right now for
Hmm.
this to stand apart. So I think it's my thought. You seem to agree that it's tier 2. So Jake,
I would say it's tier 2.
now the next one here, super hot commodity going into the last few tournaments, but I don't think it performed quite as well as people were expecting. And that's Arceus, Duraludon, Umbreon. Where are you putting this one, Jake?
I am also going to put it in tier 2, but in front of Palkia. Like, if we had kept the 1.5, this is in the 1.5. I think, just the fact that Umbreon is the free boss, hits for dark weakness, and there's a couple relevancies in dark weaknesses right now in the format. I think it's good, but I think with Giratina being so popular, I think with Guardy hitting for just high amounts of energy, and then also on top of that, you have Chin Paos as well running around. I don't think Duraludon is as safe of a wall as people think. I think 330 is relatively decent of a number to hit, and I think you're just better off playing other Arceus options, which we'll get to here soon.
Yeah, I would agree. I think of all the Arceus options, it's middle of the
It's in
pack
the
to
upper
like
tier.
it is in the upper tier. And that for that reason, because it's the upper tier of the Arceus decks, there's a part of me that wants to put it in tier 1. It's not S tier because I think there is probably one Arceus deck that I would put into the S tier category. But
Mhm.
if we have to reserve S tier for only the 1 to 2 decks that we think are going to even win the tournament, then I think this one has to be then tier 2 of the other Arceus decks. So
I
uh,
would agree with that.
the next one on the list is Arceus, Duraludon, and Alolan Vulpix, which, for those of you who don't remember what Alolan Vulpix does, 240, I believe, HP V-Star. This Pokemon, its first attack is really the thing that matters. I think it does 160 damage. And if you
Mhm.
deal damage with it, it has an effect that says this Pokemon or your opponent's Pokemon with abilities can't attack or prevent all damage. I think it's a can't attack, though, right? Jake's
I
looking it
be
up.
prevent all damage
Prevent all damage. So,
from Pokemon with an ability.
so if you had a Pokemon that could do a shred effect, like Duraludon, that does
Like
get around
Mew.
that. Like Mew, Mew doesn't have an ability, so it's fine.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Weirdly,
You know what? You're
weirdly,
right.
Mew does not have an ability, but
All this time with Mew, and I still don't remember.
this is one where I would say, like, look, if Giratina V-Star wasn't such a powerhouse right now, this maybe could see some play because what else is hitting you, right? Like
Mhm.
all the Gardevoir cards, for the most part, have abilities. All the Arceuses have abilities, like there's a lot of stuff that has abilities that's like really high up on that tier list. So, but the fact that Giratina V-Star is a very popular card right now, I think it negates this. I would put this one in, honestly, Rogue.
I would say either tier 3 or Rogue. I have no problem with either one. I think Alolan Vulpix was like Alex Szymanski did play it and did win with it, right? He did very,
Oh
very
yeah.
well with it. But I think it was just one of those things where it was just the best call for the event. Nobody knew it was coming. Nobody had any idea what it was. Nobody was prepared for it, and I think that just proves a lot. But it's done its time now.
Speaking of a deck that saw a ton of success, Jake, we have last year's World Championship winner in
The,
Arceus.
yeah, World
Yeah,
Championship actually, yeah.
yeah, Arceus V-Star Flying Pikachu VMAX. I'm sure there are slightly different cards that people might play, but as an archetype, it's
Hmm.
amazing that this one still exists. Where, Jake, are you putting this little guy?
I actually think it's Like, I think this one's tough because I think it's one of the actually better versions, especially when you play. Like, if you switch Duraludon and Flying Pikachu in the Arceus Duraludon Umbreon deck, I think it's just better. But I don't think it's tier 1. And I'm like, it's like tough to call it tier 2. But like, I just think that Flying Pikachu is a better kind of wall tactic because it has that preventative effect that that isn't just countered by path, right? Because a lot of decks are trying to run path at this point. So I just think it's better than Arceus Duraludon Umbreon, and with Palkia's running around and things like that, and basic Pokemon running around galore, right? In Chin Pao, you have them in Lost Box, especially specific versions like Lost Sablezard. It just, I don't know. It feels better. Tyranitar in the Lugias. I like it better out of all the Arceus decks. I like this one the best.
It's interesting.
It might just be a meta call.
I do wonder. I think this one, I think its success is entirely dependent on how much Gardevoir exists. Because Gardevoir,
which is probably a good chunk.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Gardevoir, Flying Pikachu, now you don't have to put it on the field, but Flying Pikachu ain't doing nothing to Gardevoir. Like, Gardevoir's like, oh no, and
that's why I think you have to have the Umbreon in.
Yeah, I think to your point, if you ran Umbreon, Flying Pikachu, Arceus, and just didn't even include Duraludon, because Duraludon at this point is only really helping you against Mew, maybe some Lugia variants, which, Lugia's seen a small resurgence here, but other than that, I don't think that Duraludon is doing much for you. So I'm putting it in tier 2. I will put it ahead of the Duraludon Umbreon, with the caveat that it needs to include Umbreon as well.
I think you just put the next two Arceus in Rogue bad. I just don't think it's there. I love Gudra and I love Regidrago, but even if Arceus is paired up with them, I don't think it saves them in the tournament. I did love it. I did love it at NAIC, but I don't really see it. And honestly, with the Arceus slacking Umbreon, I think that might be in tier 3, right at best, because I do like that slacking hits for a ton of damage, but just that ability, man, of only being able to attack of like 2 or like odd number prizes or even number prizes.
Yeah.
Like it just hardens the deck so much, and it makes it so much more difficult.
I mean, it's the kind of manipulation that, like, if your opponents can play around it, your strategy can fall apart. You can get stuck in a really bad situation on a turn where you're like, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like, I just don't have the right number of prizes, so I guess I lose. Yeah, it's a bit weird. We don't have a single prize Pokemon that can blow itself up easily that makes sense in a deck like this. We don't have Miss Magus anymore where you can fix that math. And yeah, I would agree with you. The Gudra deck, it's fun, but Chen Pao exists now. Chen Pao is going to
There's just too many insta-kill decks going on.
But speaking of the one dragon that maybe can hang with Arceus and is meant for Arceus, we have Arceus V-Star, Giratina V-Star. This one, I think, was a really popular pick for a while. I even think people initially were putting this one ahead of Giratina V-Star Lost Box. It has since, I think, dropped a little bit. But I don't know, Jake. I put this one actually in tier 1.
I think that's a trap.
I think it's Arceus
Giratina. I think Arceus Giratina is a trap. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. It is so linear, and it is so predictable. And it's like, if I'm facing Giratina Arceus, I know exactly what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
and I know exactly how they're gonna do it. And if my deck, if you look at, I've been playing some decks that play Path, and I'm sure that plays like a huge factor in a lot of these things. But like, I don't know, when I was playing Chin Pao, when I was playing Lost Tina, and I haven't played every single matchup into it. I just don't feel like it's that good. I just feel like it's easily beat.
By
a lot of decks.
I will say it might be beatable. I would agree with you. But you know what else is very beatable and has a very linear game plan, generally speaking? Mew VMAX. And Mew VMAX is hanging in there as a top tier deck.
Well, I don't know about that after this list when we talk about it.
But like you get what I mean. It's hung around, it's evolved a little bit, but for the most part, Mew VMAX does one thing and does one thing well. Draw my deck, hit real hard. And that's what Mew VMAX does. And I think that there is a lot of room, like an Arceus Giratina deck can play Path to the Peak confidently. It just can, because you get yours off. If you go first, you play that path down. So many decks in this format rely on path. They really do, especially if you're playing with Judge, with Iona, with Roxanne, whatever that combination of cards. I don't know, man. Like, I think path is really strong right now. And that in combination with disruption like Judge and Iona is, I think it puts it in a position where it's like, it might be linear, but the thing that it's doing is making it so you can't plan ahead. And
yeah,
so
but I think it's only here, and here's my reasoning behind it. I think it's only good because Arceus enables it to be good. And then once you take out Arceus, right? Because in the every 1 in 2 games, right? They whiff turn 1 attachment.
I mean, or they go second, and then you lose.
Go second, yeah. Just you win. I think it's so many games are decided by like a coin flip or turn 1 that it's just, I don't know. It feels like a trap. I would not feel comfortable enough playing it, I think.
So where do you want to put it then, Jake? Is if you don't think it's tier 1.
If you want to put it at tier 1, I'll put it like
this is your tier 1.5. This is your tier 1.5.
I think it's tier 2 or tier 3.
Bruh, no.
I don't think it's a good play.
Ain't no way this is below
I don't think it's a good play.
All right, you wouldn't play it, but I think it's strong. I think a deck that can confidently play Path to the Peak is a strong deck. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it beats itself by playing Path to the Peak.
Sure, maybe. But I mean, once you get your Starbirth off, what do you need abilities for? You don't need them.
Yeah, because you're gonna lose everything.
Jake, okay, let's move on to a deck that does need its ability. Chen Pao. Where do you think this little guy goes?
Chen Pao, I kind of feel like was also just one of those meta calls at NAIC. I do think it's better than Palkia. So I would put it in tier 2. Our tier 2 is going to be fat. I do think it's in that tier 2 category. I do think it's better than Palkia, but like what you were saying, you know, like the game plan for Chen Pao is just knock out the Baxcaliburs, right? Yeah. And if they're playing the not Baxcalibur versions on the Palkias, you just hit the thing that accelerates the energies, right? And especially if it's you know, like the Palkia V-Star version, you know, the decks that want to knock out the Baxcalibur are probably doing also enough damage to KO the Chen Paos. So I don't see it. I mean, I think that maybe someone could have a deep run with it, but playing the deck myself, it just feels pretty volatile at times now that people know what's going on with the deck.
I would agree that it is by nature fragile because your engine,
it's the glass cannon.
Yeah, exactly. Your energy engine is a single prizer, so like, you know, it's not like your engine is going to make people play Umbreon and one shot it and then you're just screwed. So it's not going to give up too many prizes, but it is a glass cannon that is a stage 2 that's easy to knock out by a lot of things. So I do agree with you that I think this is the deck that if you have a hot hand, if you feel lucky, I think if you can get those 2 Frigibacks set up early game, the amount of pressure that Chen Pao puts on any opponent. I think the one that maybe you struggle against the most is Lost Box. And with that one, look, a lot of decks struggle with Lost Box for a lot of reasons. You just can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if you have a good Guardy matchup, right?
Because you're hitting into one prizers.
Yeah, and the Inteleon Urshifu is rough at times, right? That little rogue pile that comes out, and then as
Yeah.
you mentioned, Lost Box. So I just think there's too many bad matchups for it. You
This
beat all the
is
Arc decks though.
Yeah, I mean, look, you beat all the Arceus decks. You probably beat any of the Mew VMAX decks.
Hmm.
Palkia, like any two prizer reliant deck, you have the ability to beat. Gardevoir is tough but beatable because again, the same way that if you take out the Baxcalibur, you're in a world of hurt. Same thing though. You take out their Guardy EX, they're in a world of hurt, right?
Yeah,
So
but the difference between the two though is they want to have 4 Curlias out on the field turn 2, and so they have multiple options to keep going into Gardevoirs,
yeah,
whereas you as the Chin Pao player, if you're playing something like Baxcalibur, you got to find the rare candy and the Pokemon, and that's pretty tough, I feel like, at times, because you don't have the draw engine like Curlia does.
this is true. You don't have the draw engine. So yeah, I would put Gardevoir above this just when we get to it. I would definitely put it
Yeah.
above, but I don't know. My gut says it's the top of tier 2.
So the top of tier 2, I'd be all right
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
I'd be all right with that.
Next one
Darkrai
here.
Road Bag. Darkrai Road Bag.
Darkrai trash.
It's Ross Cawthon barely made day 2 with it. One of the greatest players ever to play the Pokemon trading card game. I just don't see it. I just don't see it
Yeah.
fit. If you want to play this deck and you want to have fun beating up on Gardevoirs, if you can, go for it.
I will say
No, I don't see it.
Darkrai right now is the saddest deck of that era because it was poised to be so good, never was good, and now there's a dark type Charizard deck that's just better.
It got reprinted with Dark Patch in
I
the
know,
format with
I know.
Turbo Dark abilities with a V-Star power that allowed you to get 2 Dark Patches from the discard pile, and it's still mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And it's about to be
Irrelevant.
as you were saying, like just beat up by Charizard.
All right.
It's tough.
The
Dog
extra
V-Star is
turn.
also rogue bad.
I mean you're right. It is rogue bad.
I played the
don't know.
deck a lot. It's rogue bad. It's fun. It's awesome. It's rogue bad though.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's a quick one.
Same concept, honestly, as just Chin Pao. You're a glass cannon. When you hit, it feels good and you're rolling. But holy smokes, if they just target down your accelerator, you're post, kid.
Yeah. Jake, now we're into the variations of things that are pretty good. We got Mew VMAX, specifically the double turbo only version. So you're playing 4 double turbos and ain't nothing else.
This is a tough one.
I honestly, because I'm like looking at the rest of the what we've put up here, I put this at tier 2 behind Palkia. The reason I do that is because the other version right now is so much better that if you run this, like, the linearity that you talk about with Palkia, with Chen Pao, all of that, it's amplified in this version of Mew. Like in this version of Mew, your only attacker is Mew, always and forever. And your opponent, all they have to do is knock out 2 Mew VMAXs. You don't even need to worry.
2 Mew VMAXs, or go get the Oricorio and a Genesect and then a Mew VMAX.
Yeah, you could.
Because
But
I feel like if you're playing the DTE version, you're probably playing as
Oricorio.
well the Oricorio, which I don't know if you should or not. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's been proven wrong. But I would agree. I think it's a comfort pick. I think it's not poised to do well at Worlds, especially this version, but I don't think Mew is in general poised to go in for Worlds and do good. But I still think, someone who's been playing Mew for a really long time and really comfortable and knows all the matchups, it wouldn't surprise me if like Mew was in a top 8. If there was one Mew in the top 8.
I think there will be a Mew. It will not be the double turbo version.
All right. So we're putting it in tier 2?
I'm putting it in tier 2.
Okay.
Jake, we have the one variant of Gardevoir that is less popular, but it's Gardevoir EX Mewtwo V Union. Where do you think this one sits, Jake?
It's weird because like Guardy can just do the Guardy things, and then the Mewtwo V Union can come in and just be that wall for those Pokemon that can't hit the 310, with like Super Generation or Psysplosion, spreading the 16 damage counters against like a Lost Box deck.
Yes.
Preventing all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. So like, I don't know, it feels like it counters Lost Box pretty heavily specifically with this card. I don't know if it can work. It's one of those things that like Guardy is so good, and this is one of the things that I have that I'll talk about later with Giratina Lost Box, is that like Guardy with the Mewtwo V Union can just disregard the V Union and do Guardy things if it wants to.
It can.
Right? The same reason that any sort of Lost Box variant can just do the regular Lost Box Sableye and Kramer and things if it wants to, because it's that kind of archetype. So I feel like this is also tier 2, and it's like pretty middle of the pack tier 2, because it's very heavily matchup dependent.
This is one where like I'm happy to put it in tier 2. I put this one in tier 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not because the deck itself is bad, but because I think it is the less, like the Mewtwo V Union, right? Like if you really think about like what in the format is not going to be able to get over that damage threshold with Mewtwo V Union.
It's like Radiant Charizard, Lost Box. I don't know. Tyranitar hits it for weakness because it's a dark version.
Umbreon hits it for weakness. The flying Pikachu would make it so you can't attack. I just and even
no,
Palkia,
I think you can still attack with the Mewtwo V Union, can't you? Because it's not a basic Pokemon; it's a V Union Pokemon.
That's true, yeah. But still, like for the most part, there's only a couple of decks that are at the higher level that can't reach high numbers now. Even cards like the Giratina V-Star, like the second they know you're playing the V Union version. Well, heck, don't bother with the Arceus. Go Giratina V-Star, blow it up with that, for me, that's why I put it in tier 3, because I think it has viability. I think that specific version is designed to help with your worst matchup, but you lose because you're taking up 4 whole card slots in a Guardia list that wants to be as consistent as possible. You've now made such a consistent deck less consistent because you might prize one of them. You might draw into this awkward hand now because 4 cards that you would have preferred don't exist in that deck. So that's kind of why I put it in tier 3, but I'm happy to go to tier 2.
I think, it'd be okay putting it in tier 3, because if you think about it more, like, so in the matchups that you don't want it, well, there's 4 dead cards. So like in the matchups that you don't want it, what can you put in there as well to help have better stuff? And is that more valuable than just regular Gardevoir, which we'll talk about, which I think regular Gardevoir is an S tier deck. Yeah. I think it's one of the best. I think the thing holding back Gardevoir is the time in the rounds. And so if you're not comfortable playing Gardevoir and you don't know when to scoop and you don't like understand game states and stuff, I think Gardevoir is not a good pick for you. But I think the players like Tord Reckliffe that know how to play the clock, right, that know what they're doing with decks like that, I think they're gonna do really well.
I think Gardevoir, especially at Worlds, this is where Worlds being Worlds versus all of the other regionals. It's weird. I think Gardevoir is actually a better pick at Worlds because all of the players going have played so much Pokemon that you would assume that the average level of any player playing Gardevoir is much higher, right? That's my guess, is that any player who's qualified and traveled out there, they've gotten all those points during this season. They're paying to get out to Worlds, et cetera, et cetera. So, we talk about some tournaments have 25% of people playing Gardevoir, 20%, whatever it might be. But how many of those people, myself included, sometimes, how many of those people are not playing this deck, at 3 tournaments a week, at 3 different locals, have not played it at 4 different regionals or whatever? Like, at Worlds, people that are going to choose this deck are people that are very familiar and comfortable with it. So you shouldn't see nearly as many ties because people will know to play it faster, which I think makes the deck actually better.
I have a conspiracy theory that I don't know if is gonna happen or not, or just like tinfoil hat theory
Hmm.
of like, I think because of time and because I think you need a better record to make it into day two than you do at like a regional or an IC.
Might,
I
yeah.
think you need a better record that at Worlds. And so I think less people are going to be playing Gardevoir because of that nature of ties and things like that. Because Gardevoir, like Lost Box, it's just it takes a long time to play. And so I think only the best Gardevoir players are going to be playing Gardevoir. And so that's why I think it's like, and I don't know, maybe the
Well,
idea for a lot of people is a lot of people think that a lot of people jump off Gardevoir. It definitely, I don't think will be as popular as it has been in the past.
interesting. So we have opposite opinions. That's
You
interesting.
think it's a lot of people are gonna be, I think if
I don't
it
know about a
wasn't
lot.
because I think you need like a 6-2 record or something
Well,
to get into day two.
so I think here's where it gets different, right? The day one versus day two at this year's Worlds is different than next year.
Yeah.
At this year's Worlds, people have automatic day twos and some people don't. So you might be
Well,
right.
they've always had it until like, next year.
Yeah, exactly. But
This has been a thing for a long time.
yeah, but my point is that like you might be right in that the people playing in day one won't play Guardy,
Hmm.
but you can change your deck. And so you might have fewer people playing Guardy day one because they want to avoid ties, to your point, even if they think they can play fast. And then more people playing Guardy day two onwards because they think that deck is going to carry them to a world championship. So that
Mm.
because the deck choice can change between day one and day two, and this is unique to Worlds. I don't know. I think Guardy, like the people who will get to day two, they're gonna know. Like I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Honestly, I don't know, but I agree it's S tier.
There's
TLDR, it's
also
S tier.
there's an entire conversation about like how day one affects day two of Worlds
Yeah.
and like how that affects our tier list and whatnot. But what doesn't affect the tier list is Gengar being rogue bad.
Yep.
Don't play it.
It's like,
It's
oh,
a
I hit for
cool deck.
weakness.
It's really cool and really fun, but the fact of the matter that you have to build up Houndoom on it and do damage to yourself to make yourself more KO'd able from like other attackers that don't hit for the infinite damage is just like meh.
Yeah. All this work just to knock out a Gardevoir EX. Too much.
All the work.
Now,
I
Jay.
think
Oh,
Rapid Strike and Teleon is tier 2.
I was gonna say, like, so the next deck is Rapid Strike Inteleon with Rapid Strike Urshifu, the deck that won NAIC. So it came out of nowhere, won NAIC. But I would agree with you. I don't really know where it fits into tier two, so I'm just gonna drop it back around Mew.
I think it's more in the front because I
Okay.
think it's a finicky deck that not a lot of people will play, like Cyrus, and I think Cyrus isn't even playing
Yeah.
Rapid Strike and Teleon right now. So I mean, that doesn't mean that she won't play it at Worlds, but like,
Yeah. But
I
it's weird.
think it's a finicky deck, and again, I think it was a great meta call for NAIC. I think it had a really good job of missing certain matchups in its way to the top and stuff. And I think Celios Network also had a really good video if you're trying to understand how a deck like Rapid Strike and Teleon Urshifu can win a huge event such as that. So I would say it can do a lot of things in a lot of matchups, but I just don't know. It's lost that wow factor like the Alola and Vulpix did.
Yeah, I fully agree. Getting into the next couple of archetypes, we have the Lugia V-Star archetypes. We've got one with the Snorlax just hanging out, blocking some shenanigans, and then we have the single strike version with Tyranitar. I don't really follow Lugia, especially at this point. I have no clue where these really sit. I know they've seen some popularity, but my gut would say that the single strike version is maybe a little bit more reliable, especially given you get that dark type weakness. You can hit for bigger damage. But even then, I think that you probably end up being in this awkward tier 2 of just you're another setup deck, just like Excalibur. Yeah.
It's one, and Path is what really shuts off this deck.
Yeah.
Because they can't get out the summoning star. They can't get 2 Lugias down turn 1, and you can Gust KO or something like that, which, by the way, a lot of decks in the format can do that. You're in a lot of trouble, especially on turn 1, right? And something like Turbo Lost Box that we'll get to more towards the end of this tier list, play something like a Raikou. They can Mirage Gate on turn 2, especially if they start Comfey. It is not all that uncommon. So, I mean, that's just an auto loss right there, in my opinion. So I think Lugia with the Tyranitar is tier 2. Lugia with Snorlax is tier 3. I don't think Lugia is the play for Worlds.
Yep.
I just don't. I don't see it. There's too many decks that can beat it. It doesn't have a good enough matchup spread on things like that. I don't know. Maybe Reagan Retzloff has cracked Lugia V-Star.
Maybe. Well, I
Who
mean, look,
knows?
you always have the benefit with a deck like Lugia of like, you can play a variety of different attackers. You can make it a box type deck, but a better box type deck is Lost Box. That's just a better version of what it's trying to do. So, speaking of Lost Box, we have a bunch of Lost Box variants here. I think we can go through a few of these pretty quickly. Lost Box with the Sky Seal Stone.
Tier. I just
3.
think. Yeah, I mean, it's just tier. I mean, I think Forest Sealstone is just way, 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 way better than Sky Sealstone. I get Sky Sealstone because you're playing you're probably playing a V like Raikou or Dragonite, and they can hit for big damage and they can take knockouts, and so therefore you can take an extra prize on those. But I think it's a lot harder than you think to set that up, which is why a lot of decks, when that card first came out, were playing it and then moved off of it. So I just don't think. You said tier 3, right?
Yeah. It's not that it's bad. I just think, especially in comparison, tier 3. I'm gonna go tier 3 with the Lost Box Gudra.
I think it's rogue bad, to be honest.
You think?
I mean, I played it.
Fair enough.
I just think that Gudra was better
Before
in the
Chen
past,
Pao,
like before Paldea evolved. Yeah, I just think it was better at that time. There's just too many decks now that go too fast and hit for too big of damage, and like in the Lost Box mirror, like I don't even know if you win. To that point, especially like in the Turbo mirror, like it's an inferior. There's plenty of other versions to play Lost Box.
Yeah, I think that like before Gardevoir, before Chen Pao existed, cool. It was an interesting play. The second 2 decks can one-hit KO you without a ton of work. You're like, it's fine. No, thanks. Next one here, we have Lost Box with Kyogre. So the bench boy.
I think Kyogre is tier 1.
Okay.
I think the Kyogre version is tier 1. And I think, this is my prediction, this is the play for Worlds.
Interesting.
I really like Kyogre. Now, I know some people have like created videos and stuff about like Kyogre recently, and I have not watched any of those videos. But just like, as someone who is playing Lost Box a lot more now, not necessarily this version, I feel like Kyogre has something about it that like Manaphy, right? Even if your opponent plays Manaphy, I think Lost Box has enough things that counteract the Manaphy, right? We're seeing Lost Box versions like Giratina Lost Box that aren't even playing the Manaphy now, because the Kyogre has gone away, because spread is not as prevalent in this format. So I think you can really get away with, because I really like Kyogre Lost Box now. There's a lot of multi-prize Pokemon in there. We've seen it with Azul, Caleb Gedimer, Grant. We've seen all these people do well with it, and it faded off for a time because they stopped playing it when Paldea Evolved came out. But I think you can see 1 or 2 people just really tearing it up. I think it's the play. I truly do.
Yeah,
I'm convinced.
I would agree with you. You have Sableye, right? The only thing is like they gotta
do the Lost Box things.
You do the Lost Box thing, and then you finish the game with the Kyogre. Easy breezy, beautiful. I generally speaking, I would agree. I think it's a good play, for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, look. Also, I think that the release of Super Rod as part of Paldea Evolved Obviously, like a lot of decks are including it as a one of, but I think its impact on this deck is understated because Energy Recycler, don't get me wrong, Energy Recycler is great. Super Rod is an inherently more versatile card with not a lot
Hmm.
less of a downside. And now I can run 4 of those plus a couple of Energy Recyclers. So my lost, my
Did
comfy,
you say 4 of those?
you could run
No, you
4
don't.
Super
No,
Rods.
no, 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 no. Do not play 4 super rods. No, 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 no. You'd rather play 4 energy recyclers. I
Oh
could agree with
no.
2 super rods.
Oh
I could agree with
no.
2 super rods and some energy recyclers, but no, 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 not 4, not 4, not 4. I'm sorry, Sean. No,
We'll
no, no,
see.
no, no, no.
We'll see,
No, no, no,
Jake.
no, 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 no. But
Next deck
anyways,
is
Lost Tina,
Lost Tina's
I
S
also
tier.
think Lost Tina is tier. No, I think it's tier
S
1.
Nah, S tier. This is an S
I
tier
think
deck,
it's
Jake.
tier 1.
I,
I think it's tier 1 because I think you struggle in what I think is the S tier Lost Box decks, the Lost Box Turbo
the
with
one
the
with Radiant
Dragonite and
Charizard?
the no, 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 the Dragonite and Forest Sealstone. It's a little bit more down the line.
It's not on
It's
this
oddly
list.
placed. Yeah,
Oh,
it is.
right.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
at the very end. I think that one is the S tier. I think Lost Box Giratina is really good. And I think it's really popular, but I think its popularity has really killed it because now everybody's going to be playing around it. And yeah, even though you can do your normal Lost Box things, if you don't need the Giratina, that just eats up a lot of bench or that eats up a lot of deck space, right? There's a lot of people expecting it. In the Lost Box mirrors, I don't know, like it's tough because like
Interesting.
you only have a limited amount of resources to be able to recycle and renew in comparison to something like the Lost Box Kyogre, right? And let's hope you're playing the Manaphy, right? Because I've seen a lot of lists that aren't playing Manaphy in that, and if you do play Manaphy, it's even harder to get the stuff like Giratina out. So it's like it's a double-edged sword. It's really good. It's really fast. It's really aggressive. You just destroy a lot of Arceus decks, in my opinion. But I don't know. There's
That's not nothing.
something missing. Just it's like actual Lost Box matchup is just the biggest reason why I don't consider this the S tier version of the deck. I think it's good. I think it's
So
tier 1, but I don't think it's as good as Kyogre, and I don't think it's as good as the Dragonite 4 Sealstone Turbo version.
so for you, the reason that it's not as high, I'm just like simplify it. The reason it's not as high is because the mirror. I'm saying the mirror, meaning the other Lost Box.
The
You don't,
archetype mirror, I
yeah, the
guess.
archetype mirror. You don't think it has as good of a matchup as the other Lost Box. That's an encapsulation for you. Of like, that's the main reason.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's fair. Hey,
I've been
um,
playing this deck a lot, and
hey,
that's
that's
kind of what I
fair.
feel like right now.
Okay, so I put the Turbo Lost Box in S tier, which we can briefly talk about, but this is the Lost
Mhm.
Box that people have been playing for like 7 months now. It's just not a lot different here. You got Dragonite V, you got Raikou, you probably have a Drapion in there. You
Mhm.
got Forest Sealstone, which from day one, I've been a Forest Sealstone stan. Like that's the only I've never even bought a Sky Sealstone. I'm like, getting one card out of your deck is broken. That's a
Oh, I believe
stupid.
Forest Sealstone is also. I think Forest Sealstone was confirmed on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it to be in the prize packs 3 that we talked about
Ooh,
earlier.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So another little tidbit in there that I remembered, but
Yeah.
I think it's S tier. I think it's the best version of Lost Box, but I don't think it's the best play for Worlds in Lost Box.
Mm,
But I think it's going to be a really, really good deck. Like overall, out of the people playing it, I think it's going to be very popular. I think it's going to be very good. I mean, you just whack on so many different decks and you hit and you have so much good math in so many different matchups and you can play it in so many different ways depending on the matchups. It is, I don't know, it's so good in my opinion.
yeah, in terms of versatility, I think the theme that we are really seeing with this chart, and we can finish it soon, but like the most versatile decks are the
Hmm.
ones at the top, right? Gardevoir, incredibly versatile. You have a variety of different attackers. Each turn, and I play a lot of Gardevoir, each turn, you basically have choices to make of like, what do I want to go in with here? What makes the most sense? What's my opponent going to be able to do? Right? You do have to maybe set a few things up ahead of time. Like you might need to stash a couple of energy on a Curlia, in advance so you can hit those big numbers. But the same thing with the Turbo Lost Box deck. Every single turn is a bit reactive. You do have to plan ahead with your Lost Zone choices, but broadly speaking, you can shape each game to what it needs to be. And every other deck not many more decks work quite like that. So last of the Lost Box deck, we have Lost Box Radiant Charizard. I think this goes in the same camp as the Sky Sealstone. I mean,
no, I think it's tier 2.
You think it's tier 2? Fine.
I think it's tier 2. It's not the worst Lost Box deck. It's kind of like right in the middle because Radiant Charizard is so good. Like the difference between Lost Box, Dragonite, Raikou Turbo, and Lost Box Charizard is one is a very fast beginning and one is a very good ending. If that makes sense. It's similar in its sort of end game kind of style to Kyogre, not exactly, but in the essence of like late game, it's really, really powerful and strong, and you really got to watch out for it because that Charizard continuously gets to have less and less energy on it. The more prizes that you take, and as they're spreading around damage, all it takes for Charizard to be able to take back-to-back KOs, right? Because there's multiple Pokemon that are over 250 in this format, is, a couple Sableye pings here and there. If you can't get that damage off, you just go back-to-back Charizards, and you've pretty much won the game at that point, right? Yeah. And you can easily do that with cards that they include, like Clara, the Super Rods, like you were mentioning, if they have stuff like that. Like, this deck is not the best Lost Box variant, but it's not the worst Lost Box variant. And I think it just really goes somewhere if someone like Pedro Eugenio Torres plays it. Sinichi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to put it in tier 2. It seems like a middle of the pack version of Lost Box. Matchup dependent, to be honest. And if somebody slams a Path to the Peak down late game, you're just screwed.
I mean, you still have Mirage Gate, so are you screwed? Who knows?
Maybe. But yeah. Last few decks here, we have the better version of Mew, in my opinion. We have Mew with Meloetta.
I still think it's tier 2.
You still think the Mew is tier 2?
I just don't think Mew's a good play. I just don't know.
Is Mew better? Here's the question then. If you're putting it in tier 2, is Mew better than Chen Pao? The version with Meloetta?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is Mew,
because you hit so fast.
Because I'm like, if you're in tier 2, I think this version of Mew has to be at the top of tier 2.
It's pretty near the top. Yeah. I would agree with that. It's pretty near the top of tier 2. But I just don't think Mew's a good deck for the event.
Yeah, I'm just saying there has to be a pretty wide gap between one Mew and the other because one Mew is clearly better. So now we have two Miraidon versions. We have Miraidon with Regieleki VMAX and Miraidon with Flaffy.
Dynamotor Flaffy.
Honestly,
Dynamotor Flaffy tier 3, Regieleki Rogue Bad.
Yeah, I initially played the Regieleki version. Just putting a 3-prizer out there like that to just be like, come kill me.
It just feels bad right now in the format.
Bad.
3-prizers don't feel good.
Yeah, and I when I see Miraidon and I look at Chen Pao, and I get it. They play a little differently because you have to have Excalibur with Chen Pao. So it's more of a glass cannon. I'll grant it that. But Chen Pao is just better Miraidon. That's literally what it is. Like the only benefit, Miraidon can get the turn 1 donk. That is it. That's it.
I do think I think the Flaffy version is also better because in the Flaffy version you're more apt to play things like both play Raikou, but you better utilize Raikou and Raichu.
Yeah,
right. The two Vs in that deck that are able to put in more and more. And then also with the Zeraora, right? I think the Flaffy version plays the Zeraora and the Regieleki version does not because you can power up the Zeraora to be able to fight in the Lost Box matchups, to fight in the Gardevoir matchup, right? With the little baby Pokemon that only need a little bit more damage. to be able to be knocked out to do the prize trade favorably. So that's just my thinking. I think the Ursaluna penny deck, Rogue bad, just like Regieleki. Rogue bad, just I don't see it. Ting Lu, tier 3, Sean, along with United Wings.
Yeah, United Wings, like, I think the weird thing about United Wings is it saw a lot of success in Japan. But I don't know what is happening in Japan. Somebody, like, the deck can go hard. Like, don't get me wrong, the right player with the right kind of luck can go ham with this deck. You do have a dark type Pokemon that can hit for weakness against some of the best decks in the format. But I'm like, the second you sit down across from a Lost Box player, you just cry. You're just like, I don't know what to do, man. I guess I'll die.
I think Ting Lu is just tier 3 though, because there's just people don't know how to play against them. There's a lot of Path to the Peaks, but then you get people playing Path to the Peak too aggressively, and then they can't play the game. Because there's a lot of decks that like Path to the Peak, and there's a lot of decks that also hate Path to the Peak that play that card. Like Lost Tina sometimes loves it, but also hates it. You got any Arceus deck, loves it, but also kind of hates it. So Ting Lu can be interesting, especially if you just pop off turn 1, but I think it's not great.
Ting Lu is an amazing deck for locals, and it's a good deck for like normal regionals even. I think it's decent for normal regional, because you'll catch a lot of people off guard. Ain't nobody at Worlds getting caught off guard. No. So, Jake, looking at this list now, okay, if you had to pick one deck, what do you think is gonna win Worlds? Let's put
Lost Box Kyogre.
Okay, you're in the Lost Box Kyogre camp. Interesting.
I'm sold on Lost Box Kyogre. I don't have any secret tips. I haven't been talking to like Shintaro Ito and Henry Brand and Azul. I haven't been talking to all these people, and that's why I'm sold on this. I don't know. Looking at it from my limited perspective, I don't know. I just feel like it's the best play.
I'm gonna go,
and we'll see at the World Championships.
I'm gonna go with Lost Box Giratina. It's the popular pick. I know I'm so basic, but I just look at all this other stuff and I go, okay, Giratina knocks out all the Arceuses and V-Stars. Check.
I mean, hey, I love if Giratina wins, because that means I can sell my Giratinas for more money.
All right. Well, Jake, that's our World's meta prediction and discussion. That'll do it for us.
We'll see how wrong we are once the World Championships happens and we commentate over some of the rounds and other videos. I don't know exactly where we'll be able to put those videos. I think just like YouTube, right?
The Metapod YouTube is where those will go.
Yeah, so if you're wondering where that is, just look up Metapod Podcast YouTube and you'll find our channel. It's over 500 subscribers now, so thank you.
Oh, wow.
Milestone.
Yeah, nice. All right.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time on the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. See ya.